So, well, Christy, thank you for doing this with me. A couple of weeks ago, I did one of my videos on practices that I do to try to keep myself centered and calm. And one of them that I mentioned and didn't elaborate was breathing and deep breathing. And I thought of some of the things I learned from you in yoga practice. There was actually a piece on NPR about a book called Breath, The New Science of a Lost Art. And it's by a guy named James Nestor. And he was talking about how breathing affects anxiety, about how exhaling engages the parasympathetic nervous system, about how shallow breathing is connected to stress.
So in learning yoga, you know, I started out just learning how to use breath with movement. And then in studying with Ravi Shankar in Granville, his teacher teaches about yoga being about the breath. He had everyone started doing these 30 breaths where you would lay on your back and you do 10 breaths, watching your breath move in and out through your nose. And then 10 breaths, just observing or watching or feeling the rise and fall of breath with your belly. And then 10 breaths, doesn't matter exactly where, but just starting at your feet, moving up to your head. And I realized I was so uptight, I couldn't even let my breath happen without making it happen.
Oh my God.
I tried to watch the breath. Like I tried and I would be like, like I knew I could breathe without making myself breathe. But when I was paying attention to my breath, all of a sudden, if I was trying to let it happen, couldn't do it without trying to control it. And it just made me realize, wow, I really have a lot to learn. So, you know, so if you start out doing some things like this and you have a hard time, that's not unusual. A lot of us do. So, so here, I'm going to give you some tools with that. So that 30 breaths that I just mentioned, that's a really great way. It's like my barometer to see where I am. You know, I want to say like Monday, I was doing my practice and my 30 breaths were so fast. I was like, okay, I need to go for a walk and come back and try this again. Sometimes it tells me like I need to get some energy out before I'm able to sit down. The other tool of equal ratio breath can be really helpful. And that's the one where you just take an inhalation and you count. So maybe just inhaling for 2, like inhale, exhale. And you can do, I usually do 4. It doesn't matter how long or how short, but it is just that process of matching your inhalation with your exhalation. And a trick you can use with that is that a lot of times when people start to practice breathing, they go, you know, like you said, that shallow breath is like we breathe from here.
I can see why you can tense up.
Right. And then watch when I even say the word stress, see what my body does. My body like there. So it's like all related. So when we can think about just the 4, inhaling for 4, sometimes it's really helpful to think like inhale, the belly starts to rise, the ribs rise, and the chest rise. And for those of us who start out breathing that way, inhaling belly, ribs, chest, exhale out. Don't worry how to exhale, just exhale out. Let's try it again. So inhale belly, ribs, chest, and exhale out. And I might be doing it too slow. You can do it as fast as your breath is there.
It's just right.
And the other thing that's kind of a trick is we call this whisper breath, but it's like when you exhale out, like you're fogging up a mirror, like, and the inhale is like the reverse of that. And that helps to just restrictions in your throat a little bit, so it helps you slow your breath down, so you just don't go. So let's just try that so far. So we're going to inhale for 4. If you can, think belly, ribs, chest, and then exhale for 4. And if you can, you're like, Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And they call this a breathing practice because the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get with it. So it's not unusual for some of these things to feel a little awkward. If you're like, I don't know about that whisper breath thing, I can't do that. Or, the cool thing is just breathe, just breathe. It's okay. You can't do it wrong unless you are not breathing, right? So, be patient with yourself. So one thing to bring into that, and we were talking about the calming of the body, and we know when we focus on a longer exhalation, this triggers on our parasympathetic nervous system. And the parasympathetic nervous system is the one that balances off our go, 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 fight or flight nervous system. The parasympathetic helps us to calm down. It helps us to relax, helps us to sleep. It helps us to repair our bodies. And so one really great way to trigger that on is just to make the exhalation a little bit longer than the inhalation. So we can use those same tools we just did, but now we're going to inhale for 2, and we're going to exhale for 4. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And you can just continue with that, for a while. I mean, and that, for me, if I even just do a little bit of that breathing practice for 5 minutes, my barometer, if I would go back to those 30 breaths, it's just amazing how my body gets calmer. My heart rate starts to slow down. My breath is a little more subtle. Everything's a little bit more relaxed. And then also my mind is a little bit more clear. My mind's a little bit more able to focus.